Hang on.
Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of our Smart interview. Today we decided to interview Dave.
Hello.
No.
Can I have my own theme tune?
I should add a little, like celebrating music after saying that, or no, maybe I should be more professional. Sorry.
Professional or entertaining? One or the other.
Yes, exactly. I need to find a way between. Right. So today we are with Sammy, of course, and both of us will ask as many questions as possible in the time frame that we have. Just one clarification, the person who you see, it's Dave, even though it's written as Sofia Mihailovic. And that's because, well, you tell us, Dave.
That's because that's who I am at the week. No, that's who
I ate.
Sophia is the love of my life and other half. Better, some people say. So yes.
So let's make sure that everybody understands. Dave and Sophia, Sophia is our smart teacher too, they are married. So they're a couple that live together and they share probably also a laptop.
Weirdly enough, we don't, but for some reason it's logged in as Sophia on my computer, and I don't know why. But never mind. No idea.
Okay, never mind. So, Dave, we would love to know more about you, and obviously we want to know where you're from and where you live now, because what I find about Dave, apart from his very sophisticated way of speaking English, I also love his accent. And I think it's a very Cambridge-like accent. Where is your accent from, Dave?
Do you want to see? Shall I show you on Google Maps?
Yeah, show us on Google Maps.
Okay, all right. So I'm originally, now bear in mind, I'm from kind of a few places and my accent does change at times, but I'm originally from just to the west of London, just here. It's a village called Ottershaw, and that's where I was brought up.
Okay.
In this area. London's kind of that way somewhere. Yeah, rural, semi-rural Surrey in the home counties. So I have
a nice county, I think.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I don't know if I can agree, because I left there when I was 18 and moved to Bradford. So I might not have agreed at that time. Anyway, it's a very nice place. Yeah, it is a very nice place. Yeah, that's where I was born and raised.
Well, I think I will take over this discussion now by saying, how and why would you move from London to Bradford? Now, for our listeners who don't know, Bradford is not exactly the most exotic or scenic place in the UK. Let's put it that way.
You say that, but one of the brilliant things about Bradford, aside from the amazing wealth of curry, which anyone who knows,
yeah.
So,
anyone who's done a,
can I point out? Dave is mentioning the curry because curry is one of the most typical, common, and famous food in England, even though it's an Indian dish. So because
thank God for the colonies.
Yes, yeah, it has a checkered history, but yeah. So originally, curry was from what was India, although it was adapted, I think, in the 19th century for like the British palate, and has become, I think it's the most popular dish in the UK, in fact, now. Although it has to be said, I'll stop sharing the screen actually. It has to be said, you don't need to see that. It has to be said that there's not one dish. I mean, it's a whole range of different foods and stuff that is ranges from spicy through to complex flavor. I'm getting carried away now. But yeah, no, I love curry. I absolutely love curry. Partly because I'm British, I guess, and partly because I live in Bradford. And Bradford is in the north of England, between Leeds and Manchester. Manchester. And it has a large Pakistani Muslim population who have been there for a few generations and basically bought curry to the north of England and to Bradford, and it's a great place to go if you really like curry. Curry
in Manchester, there is a street called the Curry Mile because it is a mile of curry houses, one after the other, and the smells are just incredible. Yes. Also the food, obviously, because I love curry.
Yeah, curry aficionados, but yeah, so that's one of the things I like.
Find it really strange that something like a typical food, so spicy and so peculiar, I find it peculiar. From India, I know, well, India, it's a colony pretty much of...
Well, there's a lot of Indians live in the UK, and when they came over, like, let's say in the 50s and 60s, food was their way of integrating with British people. So they brought a lot of spices, a lot of foods that we hadn't had before. And now curry is probably one of our national dishes. But I mean, the UK as a whole is one of the most multicultural countries I think you could get in the world. So yeah, curry, big fan. Also Chinese.
Chinese, yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think go on, Danielle.
Go on. No, you go, Dave.
Well, I was going to say, one of the great things about curry is that actually it's so varied and it takes influences from lots of different parts of India and Pakistan and other parts of Southeast Asia as well. So it's never the same. It's never, the same dish wherever you go.
Oh, yeah, completely different in every single restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I used to work in Bradford, I worked at a teacher training academy in Bradford for a while, and it was attached to an infant school. And quite often, some of the staff, but also some of the parents, used to make curries, make samosas, make all kinds of wonderful Pakistani food, and then they bring it in sometimes, and they just deliver like a big bag of vegetable samosas or something.
Yes. Oh my God, they did.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Do you know, I remember when I was in primary school, people used to do that. And when I moved to high school, I went to a Catholic high school. So there wasn't so many Indian people in the school. But in my year, there was one Indian girl, and every year on her birthday, they would always bring like a big bag of like samosas, and everyone would just indulge, probably too much.
I don't think you can ever have too many samosas. That's not possible. Yeah. But yeah, it was, one of the wonderful things about living and working there was the food, amongst many other things. But the other thing, Bradford gets a really bad reputation because of its kind of perceived history. But in reality, it's got a really diverse culture. It benefits in some ways because it's near to Leeds, it's near to Manchester. But actually, if you drive, 10 minutes outside of the city, you're in the Yorkshire Dales. In a national park. You've got beautiful landscapes all around you. You can walk and visit, lovely, quaint rural villages and lots of different places. So I really like Bradford because of the situation there and where the place that it is, but also where it is and what you can do from there. It's really well connected. So.
And also your lovely wife is from Bradford, so you kind of have to say that.
Well, she tries to tell me she's not from Bradford. She tries to say she's from Halifax, which is next to Bradford. And
a bit posher.
Well, But it used to. It used to have a better reputation. The problem is, there was a recent TV series, Happy Valley, which is based in Hebden Bridge and Halifax, which is, I don't know, I think it's made Halifax more sensationalised, but has perhaps lowered the reputation for it, seeing as it's all about crime. So I'm not sure. Maybe she'll switch to Bradford now. I'm not sure. But, yeah.
So why don't you tell people, Dave, where do you live now?
I now live in Andalusia. I live in Daniela.
So I first want to know what made you, I don't want to jump already into the present. I want to know the past. And
slow build up.
What made you move from the outskirts of London to Bradford?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to study archaeology. I studied archaeology at university, and I moved to Bradford because the university there had a really, really good archaeology course, a really good commercial archaeology course, if you wanted to become a professional commercial archaeologist, which is what I wanted to do and what I did. So
really?
I moved
Tell us about it. Like, I want to know everything about it. Like, archaeology.
Archaeology. I moved there for that and ended up staying in Bradford for about 14 years. I sort of settled down there. I got married to my first wife and have our son was born there. So they still live in Bradford and my son lives there. So I spend a lot of time going back there to visit him. Weirdly enough, he's 14 now. He's 14,
okay.
Theo. Weirdly enough, my parents, who are from North and West London respectively, but moved to Surrey to have kids and raise us, have actually followed me to Bradford. I don't know if that's why I'm here in south of Spain now, but they followed me to Bradford. So I go back to see them, of course, as well, and my sister who lives there as well now. So my family is centred now on Bradford, despite not being from there originally. But I moved there to study archaeology, which I did, and then became a commercial archaeologist, which is a job I did for 8 or 10 years, I think, something like that.
That must have been so interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you study and what did you work on? And my final question is, did you discover something?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, loads of really boring stuff if you're not an archaeologist. That's the problem. Everyone asks archaeologists, "Oh, have you ever found something really interesting?" And we go, "Yeah, I found this really nice pot." Because if you're an archaeologist, yeah, that's really interesting. I have found gold. I have found some pretty cool sites. I was very lucky. Well, I because I worked as an archaeologist for quite a long time. And I had a pretty settled job. And I used to specialize in working on projects. We call them large linear schemes, but they're basically big schemes that things like building roads, building pipelines, big gas pipelines and things, and runways for airports. So things that cut through the landscape and are more likely to then hit lots of archaeological sites. So I did a lot of work on those types of projects, which meant I got to work on a lot of archaeology. So I had a really good career for quite a few years with some really interesting things. I worked on a project which found gold in Gold Torkend in East Anglia, which ended up in the British Museum. It's a torque. It's like a torque is like a thick Iron Age necklace. It kind of like a thick, rigid necklace with two big. We call them torque ends, but like rings, big thick rings that go on the end. And they were considered to be status symbols in the Iron Age in Britain.
When?
And there's lots of them in Norfolk.
Which
the Iron Age. So pre-Roman history in Britain, pre-43 AD, going through to a few hundred BC, but that pre-Roman period, and these particular examples were probably from very close to the Roman invasion of the UK. So I was involved in that. I was also involved in a TV project that was around that. So I had that kind of.
What were you involved in? What TV?
It was on Channel 5. It wasn't that interesting. It wasn't that successful. it was a thing for the Discovery Channel, who commissioned a project. It's a long story. It's a long story. It ended up being on Channel 5 in the end, once, I think. But they did end up funding the project, which was probably the real basis for it. So that was good. So I did that. I worked on. Sorry, go on, Dalian.
No, I just want to know, like, because I'm picturing you like with all those tools, like spending hours on the ground, like digging. Is that what the archaeologist does all day?
Yeah, some do. Yeah, some do.
Not me. I just watch.
No. My supervisor. No, my tool of choice was a very big, about 21-ton metal digger that used to strip back vast areas of land very quickly. No, I mean, archaeology is varied. You can one day be working on something where you are watching hundreds of tons of machinery strip soil, and the next day you're excavating skeletons or pottery or cremations, in very small detail using lots of tiny tools, or taking environmental samples, or walking through mountain ranges trying to survey and find things. So it was massively varied, and that was one of the things I loved about it. I absolutely loved that variety. So,
have you ever found a skeleton?
Yeah.
I'm sure, yes.
Yeah. Hundreds. Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. One of the first digs I ever worked on was a Middle Saxon cemetery. So there were quite a few there.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I've excavated. I couldn't tell you how many. Hundreds, certainly.
So when you found like bones, would you just then give them to a laboratory that they will tell you how old was that person, who was that person, and if so, how old was the oldest person that you found?
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that. Well, no, I probably do actually, if I think about it. Well, it depends on the project. That's the answer. It depends on the project. A lot of the commercial projects, things like that are built into them. So, and a lot of the larger archaeological companies have their own in-house osteology departments. And some will pair with university osteology or osteoarchaeology departments as well. So it's dealt with in different ways depending on the project, and depending on the license. You have to have a license from the Home Office to excavate skeletons or human remains if you find it, or you did when I worked in archaeology. So it really does depend, but and it depends on the state of the remains, how well preserved they are, and things like that. There are lots of different questions. Right. Usually, dating them costs money, so it depends on the project budget and what they've decided they need to find out beforehand.
Okay,
so
I understand. Yeah. That's so interesting, and I would love like just a full lesson about it. So cool. Let's jump into nearly your present. So how did you move from England to Andalusia? You are in Andalusia now. There's some...
Yeah. We live just south of Sevilla in Andalusia. Near Utrera. Sophia and I got together 8 years ago, just over 8 years ago. And we worked together. We both worked at a secondary school. Say it again, Danielle.
Where did you meet? Sorry, I'm being nosy.
We met, you want all the gossip, don't you? Yeah, we worked at a secondary school in the UK. I made a professional transition that went from archaeology through to managing business management, and then ended up being a teacher effectively, specialised in, well, I worked in special educational needs initially as a support assistant, and then I moved into cover supervising and teaching classes and covering classes and things, and focus mainly on English and history, funnily enough, and a bit of science. So we worked in the same department in a secondary school in the UK, in Bradford, in fact, for, I don't know, 3 years. But I think we got together after the first year, maybe, that we both worked there together. So we met there. And when we first met, Sophia said to me, sorry, when we first got together as a couple, Sophia said to me, this isn't going to be a long-term thing. She said, look, I've got plans. I'm going to Nepal at the end of this year to do some volunteer work. And then after that, I'm planning to go and travel around Central and South America. And I said, yeah, fair enough. That's all right. This sounds like an all right situation. I'm not too worried about that. We just have a nice relationship while it lasts. And then within 2 months, I think, I can't remember if she asked me or I asked her, or we just had a conversation. But within a couple of months, we kind of decided to go traveling around Latin America together, and booked the flights. Although there was one slight error in that. So at the end of that first year together, Sophia went off to Nepal. She went off for 2 or 3 months to work in Nepal, came back. And then that summer 2015, I want to say, maybe, 2015, 2016, I can't remember now, but we went to Central and South America via New York. Spent 6 months traveling around there, working our way down, and that's where we did our CELTA qualification in Ecuador. Because we thought, well, why not? It'll be an additional qualification. It gives us an opportunity to teach EFL rather than simply teaching in a school in the UK. So we were thinking already at that point about potentially working and living abroad. And we came back to the UK,
Question.
got some work. Go on.
So what was it like to live and work, even though it was for a short time, in South America, like Nepal? In Nepal?
Well, Nepal. Sophia was in Nepal, so I wasn't in Nepal. She was just there in Central Asia, doing some volunteering work with a charity.
Okay, so Central Asia, whereabout?
She was in Nepal. She was in. It wasn't too far. Yeah, she's been around. Yeah.
Okay.
She's been around. Ask her in her interview. She'll tell you a lot more about that. Although it's fascinating. But so she then came back to the UK, and we worked there for a bit longer, and then went to Central America.
That's what. Yes, Central America.
It was fascinating. It was brilliant. It was absolutely amazing. I love it. I still love it, and I sort of miss it in a way. I mean, it's one of those things where, my son's in the UK. I need to be able to go back to see him, and for him to come over here on a regular basis. So it's important that I'm not too far away from there. But were I don't know, Ecuador or Colombia closer, I would have no issues with kind of moving there, or working there or living there, because it's an amazing place, culturally, linguistically, culinarily. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it, and I still miss it, and I look forward to going back at some point in the future. I think,
was it the type of people? Was it the culture?
That's part of it. That's a big part of it. I think also the cities are interesting and distinctly non-European.
A lot of history for an archaeologist as well.
There is a lot of history for an archaeologist. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of nature and biology as well, which is kind of my other interest. So, it was just interesting on multiple levels, both intellectually, both linguistically, both culturally, and just to be somewhere completely different. And that's when I realized that I really like being immersed somewhere that's a different culture to what I'm used to. You know, we've since been to Southeast Asia, to Malaysia and Indonesia and Singapore as well. And it's that same feeling of being, I don't know, I think some people just have that thing where they just want to be somewhere that isn't quite home, maybe not permanently, but that unfamiliarity I find quite exciting. So from that point of view, yeah, it was a brilliant experience. And talking to all of the students from Accenture who are from, you know, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, it sort of takes me back, but it also makes me want to go back there sometimes, you know, and go and experience that all over again. So that's a nice element to my job at the moment as well. Yeah.
So then you and Sophia decided to move to Spain, to stay in Spain. And how was the search? We don't have much time left, actually. We only have 1.5 minutes left, unfortunately.
I think really quickly. We came to southern Spain because we got jobs here. Well, I mean, it was simply we got offered a couple of different jobs and ended up here. We didn't expect to stay, and then fell in love with it. And ultimately, I've now bought a house. We live in a camper. We have our own animals. We have our own trees, and we have our own swimming pool, which is quite nice as well. Although it takes lots of maintenance. Not to brag, but you know.
So I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Dave or Sophia where they don't mention they have a swimming pool.
It's not a matter of pride. It's merely because we put so much effort into cleaning it on a regular basis that you just feel you have to. You know?
The amount of messages I get from Sophia about cleaning that pool is quite funny.
Yeah, we need a new robot. That's what we need.
How often do you use it?
At the minute, it's waiting to be like emptied, cleaned down, and fixed up, ready for the summer. But in the summer, every day. When it's 45 degrees out there, that was one of the attractions of buying the place where we live now, is the fact it's got a swimming pool, just because of knowing the temperature in the summer. So yeah, it's a core part of our lives.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we have less than 1 minute left, and what I would like to say is that obviously half an hour is never enough for us to know everything about somebody, and everybody has a very interesting story behind, or we can talk about the future as well, and the present, of course. But I'm sure that we can re-interview people, because now we know a little bit more about them. So we might say, hey, let's talk about that thing that you said. Now we want more details. So I would like to say thank you to Dave and Sammy for being here and for telling us about you, and thank you for your beautiful